Stopping escort work rarely feels like freedom. For many women, stopping feels tense, uncertain, financially exposed. Picture a woman on a Tuesday morning, no booking tonight, no booking this week. She makes coffee, sits down, and notices something she didn't expect. Not relief, not sadness, just quiet. A kind of quiet that doesn't feel earned yet. A quiet without structure, without direction. A quiet that asks something of her. That is where this episode begins. Because stopping doesn't just mean leaving the work. It means losing a system that organized your life. A system built on easy money, fast money. Money that bypassed time. Money that didn't require long-term planning. Because it solved the present immediately. And that loss is not abstract. It changes how effort feels, how time is experienced, how the future must be constructed. At the same time, stopping can feel like relief. Relief from night work, from constant availability, from spending time with men you feel nothing for. But relief is only one side of the equation. Because what disappears externally does not immediately reorganize us internally. And that gap is where tension begins. As the creator of the Psychology for Escort framework and the founder of Psychologists for Escorts, I help exceptional women understand the psychological impact of their work. Stopping often creates a double experience. On one hand, relief in the body. On the other, tension about what comes next. This episode is not about freedom, and it's not about regret. It's about what happens psychologically when a system that once worked is no longer there. Earlier in this series, we talked about adaptation, about dissociation, about boundaries that slowly stopped protecting. All of those processes were organized around escort work. Stopping the work removes the structure, not the adaptations. And that distinction matters. Because when structure disappears, the nervous system doesn't immediately relax. It scans. It scans for continuity, for predictability, for how stability will be maintained now. Scanning is not panic. It's uncertainty. And uncertainty quickly moves toward one question. How will I support myself now? This is where many women first feel the loss. Not emotionally, but practically. One of the hardest parts of stopping escort work is rarely talked about. Not because it's shallow, not because it's embarrassing, but because it's easy to misjudge. The loss of easy money, and by that I don't mean income, I mean efficiency. Money that came quickly, money that came predictably. Money that didn't require long-term effort. No career ladder, no years of building, no delayed gratification. You showed up, you did the work, and the result was immediate. That creates a very specific relationship with effort. Effort feels worthwhile when the return is fast. Time feels valuable when it converts directly into income. When you stop, that relationship disappears. And effort lands differently. Effort suddenly feels heavier. Not because you are lazy, but because the reward is no longer immediate. Time feels slower, because hours no longer translate directly into money. Planning becomes unavoidable, Because income is no longer contained in single moments. You have to think ahead. You have to invest before you see return. You have to tolerate effort without immediate return. And this is where many women quietly struggle. Not because they miss the work, not because they want to go back, but because the contrast is sharp. I remember looking at the job posting, good salary, interesting work, and I did the math. A full month of that salary was what I used to make in a weekend. So I closed the tab. Not because I didn't want to move forward, but because something in me didn't recognize it as enough yet. And that is important to understand, because this is not about preference, and it's not about comparison. It's about contrast. Your nervous system remembers one mode of earning, and now it's being asked to operate in another. Before, effort was concentrated. Now, effort is distributed. Before, money arrived in blocks. Now it arrives slowly. Before, you could rely on intensity. Now you have to rely on consistency. That shift isn't moral, it's neurological. Your system has learned one rhythm and is now being asked to learn another. And learning a new rhythm always feels uncomfortable at first. This is why stopping can feel unsettling, even when it's the right decision. This is where many women turn inward. Thoughts come up like, this is what normal life costs, a regular job, slower money, and I choose to pay it. Or maybe I can still see a few clients, just on the side. But what's really happening here is a recalibration. Your system is adjusting from one income reality to another. That adjustment costs energy, it costs patience, it costs time. This is not greed, this is not dependency, and it's not weakness. It's the nervous system responding to a sudden change in how effort and reward are linked. And whenever that link changes, the system needs time to reorganize. And during that time, many women expect something else to happen. They expect relief to solve it. Relief is real. The body resets, sleep improves, emotional vigilance decreases. But relief doesn't automatically reorganize identity. Because relief removes pressure without replacing structure. And structure is what once held everything together. Without that, there's space. That space is not immediately peaceful. It's undefined. And when space remains undefined for long enough, it begins to feel like something else. And this is where many women start using a different word. Emptiness. So many women describe a specific feeling after stopping. Not sadness, not grief, but emptiness. Days feel unshaped. There's time, but no clear direction for it. Energy feels unassigned. You have capacity, but nothing is pulling on it. For a long time, your body was used to intensity, to alertness, to being switched on. When that level of activation disappears, the body doesn't immediately replace it with calm. It first notices the absence of stimulation. That absence is often felt as emptiness. Desire feels quiet, not gone, just inactive. This experience is often misunderstood by others and by the women themselves. Emptiness is quickly interpreted as a problem. Something must be wrong. I should feel more. I should want something. But emptiness here doesn't mean absence. It doesn't mean there is nothing felt inside. Only that feeling is muted. It means the system hasn't reorganized yet. For a long time, your nervous system was externally organized. Demand shaped your days, availability shaped your energy, response shaped your sense of relevance. That constant activation gave rhythm. It gave orientation. It told your body when to be on. When that disappears, there's no immediate replacement. Internal organization takes time, because it has to be built from the inside. And building from the inside is quieter than responding from the outside. This is why emptiness can feel uncomfortable. There's no signal telling you what matters today, when to be on. No urgency, no evaluation, no clear feedback. Without that feedback, identity temporarily softens. You don't feel bad, but you don't feel defined either. This is not a collapse, it's a pause. A pause where the old structure is gone, but the new one hasn't formed yet. Many women try to escape this phase. They fill the space quickly, with work, with goals, with distraction, not because emptiness is unbearable, but because it feels unfamiliar, especially after years of intensity. But emptiness has a function. It's the space in which orientation can slowly return. Not through pressure, not through demand, but through small, repeated experiences that are not transactional. Moments where nothing is expected and nothing has to be managed. At first, those moments don't feel meaningful, they feel neutral. And neutrality can feel empty when you are used to intensity. But neutrality is where reorganization begins. I want to pause here for a moment, because I have a sense of what's happening inside you right now. You have just heard about the loss of easy money, about the emptiness, about a body that went quiet when you expected it to open. And somewhere in that listening, a thought has probably formed. Maybe I stopped too early. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should have waited longer. Maybe I should go back. I wanted to name that thought directly, not to dismiss it, but because it deserves to be looked at carefully. Because that thought feels like information. It feels like your instincts speaking. Like your body telling you something went wrong. And it might be. For some women, that thought is longing. Real longing. A genuine wish to return. But for many women, it's something else entirely. At this point, many women wonder, did I stop too early? Was this a mistake? Those questions feel heavy, because they sound final. But most of the time, this is not regret. It's discomfort with uncertainty. And those two are often confused. Regret looks back and wants to undo. Uncertainty looks forward and doesn't know how to orient yet. The nervous system prefers known patterns, even when those patterns were costly. Because cost is familiar, uncertainty is not. For a long time, your system knew exactly how things worked. You knew what effort produced, you knew what intensity led to, you knew what being available returned. That predictability mattered, not emotionally, but physiologically. When you stop, that predictability disappears and the nervous system notices. It starts scanning for something recognizable. When it doesn't find it, it reaches for the closest explanation. Maybe I stopped too early. But notice what that thought does. It tries to restore structure. It imagines a past where things were clearer. Not necessarily better, just clearer. This doesn't mean the work was better. It means it was structured. Structure organizes the system from the outside. You don't have to decide what matters. It's decided for you. Demand shapes your days. Response shapes your relevance. When that disappears, the system is asked to do something new. It has to organize itself. And self-organization is slower. It's quieter. And it doesn't give immediate feedback. The lack of feedback is uncomfortable. So the mind looks for meaning. And sometimes it calls that discomfort regret. But regret usually carries longing to return. What most women feel here is not longing. It's disorientation. Not knowing yet what effort connects to. Not knowing yet where energy should go. Not knowing yet what defines a good day. That can feel unsettling. But unsettling doesn't mean wrong. It means unfinished. This phase is transitional. The old structure is gone. The new one isn't built yet. And the system doesn't like gaps. So it asks questions. Was this a mistake? But that question is premature. Because nothing has replaced the old rhythm yet. You can't evaluate an absence as if there were a final state. This is not the end of something, it's the middle. And middles are uncomfortable because they lack definition. So if you notice thoughts like, maybe I stopped too soon, there are different ways to understand that thought. For many women, it's a wish to return. For others, it's a system waiting for orientation. And orientation takes time. Another surprise after stopping is the body. Not emotionally, physically. Not having to be available doesn't immediately restore desire. Many women expect it to. They expect the body to respond with relief, with openness, with appetite. But desire doesn't respond to permission. It responds to safety. And safety is not a switch. It's a condition. For a long time, the body learned something very specific. It learned to mobilize on demand, to become responsive when needed, to override internal rhythms in favor of external expectations. That kind of availability trains the body, not consciously, not through repetition. The nervous system learns. When something is asked of me, I respond. When attention is required, I activate. When desire is expected, I perform it. This doesn't mean the body wanted it, and it doesn't mean it didn't. It means the body adapted. When availability ends, the demands disappear. But the body doesn't immediately trust that. For the first time, there is no instruction, no schedule, no expectation. And undirected systems don't rush. They pause. They wait. This waiting is often misunderstood. It's labeled as low libido or loss of desire, or something broken, but often it's the first sign of safety emerging. For years desire had a function. It was responsive. It moved towards someone. It served an interaction. When that function ends, desire has nowhere to go yet. And so it goes quiet, not absent, dormant. Because spontaneous desire requires something different. It requires internal permission. And internal permission requires safety. Safety in the body is slow. It builds through repetition, through non-demand, through experiences where nothing is required. This is why many women notice something unexpected. They feel calmer, but less sexual. That contrast can be alarming, because calm is supposed to equal desire. For the first time, the body is not directed. No one is pulling on it. No one is evaluating it. No one is waiting for a response. That absence can feel strange, even unsettling, because without direction, the body has to sense itself, and sensing takes time. Numbness here is not shut down. It's recovering from constant mobilization. The system is learning something new, that it doesn't have to respond, that nothing happens if it doesn't. And that lesson has to land in the body, not just in the mind. This is why forcing desire back rarely works. Trying to stimulate it, trying to awaken it, trying to fix it. Those attempts reintroduce pressure. And pressure is familiar, but familiarity is not safety. Safety is neutrality repeated over time. Moments where the body is left alone, where nothing is expected from it. Only then does desire begin to reorganize. Not as performance, not as response, but as something internally generated. And that form of desire moves slower. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't rush. And for women who lived for years in intensity, slowly can feel like absence. But slowness is not loss. It's recalibration. The body is not failing you here. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. This phase is not a problem to solve. It's a transition to endure. If stopping felt instantly freeing, it would mean nothing had adapted. The intention you feel is evidence of previous organization. And organization takes time to dissolve. Stopping doesn't feel like freedom, because freedom is not the first stage. The first stage is reorientation. Learning how effort works again, how money is earned again, how desire moves without demand. In the next episode, we'll talk about shame and identity, and why success doesn't protect you from either.